Hey, what up? So today I'm going to be talking about the deck that I'm going to be using for the light versus dark uh, event that's coming up. And this is sort of a deck profile and sort of a preview of the deck that I'll be running, and it's going to be Labrynth here. And this build is going to be particularly focused more on some of their niche cards that we're going to be sort of trying to abuse and use and see how that runs. And this is kind of like a pre-build, I would say, just because we don't really know what type of decks we're going to see from the light side. So if you're playing dark, I do think Labrynth has a pretty good game plan. And while we did lose a couple powerful cards, like we did lose Our Lady, or at least one of them, usually only one, two. And we did, but we did lose our main most powerful card, being the Big Welcome. So Big Welcome to 1 does significantly hinder the deck a little bit, because it kind of makes you regress to sort of more the floodgate style of Labrynth back then, when they used to run. Well, the only card they had was Welcome Labrynth, the original one, and you were focused more on summoning out Lovely, and so. But even with that, I think most, if not all, of the floodgates are banned except for Royal Decree. So, or at least the good ones, I would think. These are kind of like some of my staples that I keep in the deck, or keep in on hand here. So as you can kind of see, there's no anti-spell, skill drain, poison. There can only be one. None of those exist, so you can't really even play the floodgate version of sorry, Labrynth. I almost said Traptrix there. Yeah, so you're kind of like in a weird spot, right? So you have a lot of empty space if you want to play Labrynth, because you essentially lost a good chunk of it, of the deck. So you can't really do any like turn 1 combos either, because you don't have Clue Clock, which is banned. So what you're kind of stuck with is just like this, yeah, a lot of space, like a lot of empty space, and what we're going to try to fill it up with are some Labrynth cards that they're not great enough or good enough to be played in like a competitive high tier Yu-Gi-Oh event or rank, but they're good enough to play in a deck that's specifically designed to sort of play with them, or designed to sort of work well with them. So basically in its own archetype, right? So if you build Labrynth as sort of a pure Labrynth deck, playing on theme, then some of these cards aren't that bad if you think about it, and I'll talk about those cards in a second here. But overall for the deck, I'm going to be playing some cards that I usually don't play, like I mentioned, especially more Labrynth focused cards. And then I'm going to be playing like a secondary engine, which I don't know if it will be good enough or would be, or how well it would play out, but we'll talk about that too. All right, so let's talk about the extra engine that I'm playing. Since there's essentially no hand traps available for this particular event, I think the only hand traps you can play is like DD Crow, and I think Ally of Justice, the light one. The it's not gonna show up in here. I don't think Ally of Justice, Cycle, I think. I'm not sure what which one it is. This one, yeah. Cycle Reader. Totally forgot the name. So yeah, so Eye of Justice, Cycle Reader are your only hand traps. So I suppose if you really wanted to, you can add this to your deck to play. I don't think it's worth it unless there are a bunch of light decks that are just utilizing their graveyard. For now, we'll have to see until when the event starts. Then we'll see if it's worth it or not. But for now, I wouldn't run Ally of Justice, or DD Crow, just quite yet. So, okay. So moving on. Since there are essentially no hand traps available, even like the dark ones, I think this light. Well, this one we can't even use. Can't use Shifters. Dark can't use. The Abyssals are banned. Yeah, there's essentially really no hand traps. So we gotta fill the void of our missing Labrynth cards and the void of no hand traps. So instead, before I sort of digress, I sort of mentioned a secondary engine, and that secondary engine we're going to be playing is the Destiny Fusion engine. Now, it looks a little weird, but we essentially still have sort of the full package um, available to us. What I mean by that is like nothing in the DP engine has been really hit except for Fusion Destiny going to 1, which is fine. Like, it's not a big deal. As long as our opponent's not playing some sort of mill deck where they're milling our pieces into the graveyard. But as long as we have Destiny Fusion and access to Verte, we can easily make DPE. If the if something gets milled or something goes wrong, you can always ditch the Denier and ditch the Dasher with your Chandelier and Tovi, which means they're never really dead in your hand either. So basically, they're not dead in your hand, and any two of your monsters will make Verte, which would go into DP. Now you do have to be a little careful because if you activate Welcome Labrynth, you will be locked into Fiends. In that particular case, then you won't really be able to summon DPE. But ideally, like you use Ariane to summon out maybe like an Ariana, and then you search something, and then you link summon into like a Predaplant, do your full combo or whatever, then activate this, ditch the Fusion Destiny, and go into Destroyer. So that is sort of like the idea there. Or if you have like a Toby that you ditch to the graveyard, you special summon Toby on the board with like Ariana or Ariane, either one would go into a Vert. So it's just a secondary engine. It's not really that big. It's only 3 cards, and if you do break on them, you can always pitch them for cost of the furniture. So it's not really that bad, I don't think. At least in theory, right? So that's one engine we're running. Now the rest of the deck, since we don't have any hand traps and whatnot, I kind of just had to fill it out with more Labrynth stuff. And let's talk about that a little bit, right? So Ariane, I typically don't play her because she's very greedy, I would say. She's easily punishable in my experience, and I don't really like drawing her because if you normal summon her, she doesn't really necessarily do anything for you. Yes, you could pitch a trap card and then like special summon Ariana, but if you get Ash, it hurts more. Like if you summon Ariana and you get Ash, it doesn't really hurt that badly because it's free. Where Ariane, it's a cost to send a trap to special summon something, and so if you get Ash or Imperm, you're down the card, and then Ariane doesn't really do that much. But in this particular event, since the only trap or hand trap we might have to worry about would be other Imperms, there's a good chance which will work out fine for us, right? So that's why we're playing 2 copies of her. Now you could definitely play maybe even 3, but I think 2 copies is good because I don't think you want to play more than 2 because you might clog up your hand. If you draw multiple copies of these, they're kind of dead in your hand. You just want to see 1, and ideally you want to summon her off with Welcome Labrynth. So yeah, like having 1 copy in your hand is nice. Maybe having 2 is okay, but maybe you want to open up 1 copy in your hand and have 1 in your deck, so that way you have the option of summoning out another 1 from your deck using Welcome Labrynth. But that's at least my thought process on it. So I'm only playing 2. Obviously, we still got the rest of the normal furniture package. A 3 triple Ariana, Stovey, and Chandelier. It's not much to really talk about there. Okay, Labrynth Archfiend is another interesting card. Back when the deck was more of a floodgate style, you see occasionally he pops in and out as either a 1 or 2 copy. I decided to just go ahead and just toss in the 1 here, because you don't want to draw this card. Obviously, like it's doesn't really do anything in your hand, right? It's level 7. It's basically like drawing Lovely. But the reason why I'm playing him is because he's just another Welcome Labrynth target to summon out, because we need we need to be able to summon big monsters from our deck, because we can't really recur our big monsters if they go to the graveyard, or if they're in our hands, because we're limited to 1 big welcome. Now if big welcome was at 3, then obviously I wouldn't really play him, but since big welcome's at 1, I'm upping the count on just the bigger Labrynth cards in the deck, so we can just get some good value off of the welcome Labrynth. So he's not that bad. He he generally is like a 2400, 2800 beat stick, maybe even more. And I think with this effect, your opponent has to attack him, and then you can when it's special summoned, you can set a trap card from your deck, which isn't that bad, honestly. It's not a bad effect. But yeah, so we're playing the one Archfiend. What Archfiend also does is he also helps us make Chaos Angel. So if you have him and Chandelier on the board, you can summon Chaos Angel, or if you have him and the Denier on the board, you can go into Archangel, or sorry, not Archangel, Chaos Angel. I'm getting the names mixed up there. So that's another reason why we're playing the one copy there. Maybe he's good enough to play at 2, but for now I'm just gonna stick to the 1. Next off, we have 2 Lovelies. Since we did lose a lady, we're gonna up our counts on Lovely, and I think 2 Lovely is just fine. I don't think you need more than 2. So ideally, we summon her off with Welcome Labrynth, and just be able to abuse her effect every turn. And we have 2 of her on the board, pretty good. Not really much to say, you know. It's your Lovely there. Obviously, we don't want to open her in her hand, but that's why we have the furnitures to kind of unbrick ourselves. Then just the one lady because she's limited, right? Now the one Harpy's Feather Duster, it's mainly because we don't really know what people are playing. So maybe they play Decree. We need a way to out Decree. So this is a card that I might cut in the future iteration of the deck as we play the format or the event. For now, it's just in the main deck as a way for us to out Decree if someone is just maining triple Decree. Yeah. Alright, then just one Monster Reborn here. Monster Reborn, while we're playing this, is just to reoccur some of our bigger monsters, and because Welcome's at 1, we might as well try to reoccur some of our big monsters, or set up for a Chaos Angel play, or set up another monster so we can go ahead and summon Predator Plant. So that's why we're playing the Monster Reborn. But you can definitely cut it if you want to. It's not a big deal. For now, I think it's okay to play. One Extravagance because it's limited for this event. One Destiny Fusion, and then one Pot of Prosperity. Just if we're bricking or something, just to help us unbrick ourselves a little bit, dig for our answers. So yeah, Pot of Prosperity. All right, we're playing 2 Labrynth, namely because we need the ability to recycle our monsters. Since, like I mentioned, that's kind of like the important thing with this deck right now, is to be able to just summon back our boss monsters, because we're limited to 1 Welcome. So the best way to reoccur our monster is with Labrynth. And we have plenty of traps to work with Labrynth. So that's kind of like the idea of the build of the deck right now, is to play a lot of removal traps so we can trigger Labrynth, and we can easily trigger the Stovies and the Chandeliers. Alright. Setup Labrynth is an interesting card, right? It's I'd say it's a pretty good card, but it's also situational, and it could also be a brick. So this card, obviously, in the late game is really pretty good, right? Like, you activate it, you can shuffle 2 of your used up Labrynth cards, or Labrynth spells or traps. So that includes Labrynth, the field spell, and it includes basically all your traps. You basically just target those, shuffle them in your deck, and then set 2 more traps. So that's pretty good. So for this particular event, we want to probably save this for our big Welcome to be able to recycle it. Our only other way to recycle big Welcome is with Lovely, but obviously that's not always going to be the case. So Labrynth setup is kind of nice. I believe it's searchable with the Chandelier and the Tovi, because these search any spell or trap, I believe, that are Labrynth. Yeah, spell or trap right here. So it's searchable. Obviously, you don't want to draw it, but it is like super searchable with the Tovi and the Chandelier. You set it and then activate on your turn, and you just get a bunch of value. Like, this card can be pretty crazy. I think in the future, in some OCG builds, they do actually play 1 copy of this in the main deck. Right now, I don't think it's needed, but in the future, I think it might be pretty handy card to play. And it's a card that is like just kind of overlooked. A lot of people, because it's overlooked because it's situational, right? It requires a bit of a setup. and if you do draw in your opening hand, it just doesn't do anything. It's kind of a brick. But with the right type of deck and with the right build, and since we're playing mostly just a Labrynth build, I think it would work well in the deck. All right, let's move on to our meat of the deck, which is our trap suite, right? So I just still play one Compulse here because I think Compulse might be okay for this event. There's no Bystrials or anything we have to worry about, so we can basically just Compulse whatever we want. Maybe we Compulse a Blue Eyes White Dragon. Who knows, right? Time will tell what this is going to be, good or bad. I think Eradicator is still a pretty degenerate card, so might as well play it. Same thing with Dimensional Barrier, kind of degenerate. Although it's like I said, well, this may be cut in the future for the event, and depending on how it shapes up to be. It's also not that great because we only have one lady, so it's a lot harder to search off of it, or a lot harder to bring it out onto the board. But we're still playing it just to see. We might cut in the future. Triple Imperm because it's the only hand trap we can actually play, so we might as well play Triple Imperm in this for this particular event. Ice Prison, I think might be good, namely because we don't have Max C to really worry about, and a lot of attribute decks they're typically also the same typing also. So I think Ice Dragon Prison is gonna be pretty okay for the event here. Okay, and then Triple Welcome because I normally only play 2 in my regular build, but for this event I'm gonna maximize it if possible, so I'm playing 3 Welcome Labrynth. And this one's is fairly interesting, right? It's called Fair Welcome Labrynth. Now normally this card is pretty garbage. It's super situational, but I think for this event we can kind of abuse it a little bit. So reading the card, it looks really weird. It's kind of like a Sakuretsu armor if you think about it, but at the same time it's not a Sakuretsu armor. It's a little bit better than just like a generic Sakuretsu armor. So you're only allowed to activate this card when something declares an attack. So like if your Summon Skull attacks my Stovey, then I can activate this, right? However, I think this works just like how Utopia works. So it doesn't necessarily force your opponent to be the one attacking you. You yourself can use this on yourself. So let's say I declare an attack with Lovely, right? Then I can activate this card and then target a card on the field. It doesn't necessarily have to target what's attacking or the monster I'm attacking or the monster that's attacking me. You can target whatever card you want on the field. You would then negate your own attack and then destroy one card on the field, or the card that you particularly target. So if let's say my Lovely is attacking your Chandelier, right? And then you have a setback row. I can activate this card. It would then just negate my Lovely's attack, and then I can just would target your back row, and that would pop it. So that's ideally how I think it's gonna work out, right? And this card also works really well with Labrynth. If you activate it correctly, you should be able to destroy 2 cards. One with non-targeting destruction with the Labrynth, and one with the its own effect. And then you also get a set of trap card from your deck. So it's sort of like almost a 3-for-1 type of deal if you think about it. So yeah, it's got potential to be kind of good. Yeah, so it's got potential. So like let's think about it a little bit more, right? So maybe it's not a 3-for-1, but it is a really net positive card. So let's say we have Labrynth on the field, and this card. So we destroy one card with Labrynth, and we destroy another card with Fair Welcome, and then it replaces itself. So technically it's just a straight up +2. So yeah, I think it's got potential in a pure Labrynth style deck, and it's also searchable with all of our Stovey and Chandelier. It's recyclable, and we can just reset it. Yeah, obviously it's a little situational sometimes, but no matter what, this card should, in theory, always gives you at least a +1, right? Mainly because it just replaces itself. So, but the offset is that it's situational. It forces someone to declare an attack before you're able to use it. But that's okay. So I guess you can technically, I think it's supposed to work off with Archfiend, Labyrinth Archfiend, because I think whatever trap you do set from this, it can only be used when you declare an attack or something declares an attack. So yeah, so if you set this up with Archfiend, it works just the way it's supposed to work. But yeah. Okay, next off we have one Archfiend Ghastly Glitch. This one's also another situational one, just because it requires you to have a Fiend monster on the board. And for the most part, I think with this particular deck, we're 90% of the time gonna have at least something on the board. It's just if you don't summon something on your first turn, it might be a little dead. So that's why we're just playing the one of. And it's also kind of nice in the sense that it dumps our Stovey and our Chandelier to the graveyard. So that's kind of nice there. That's really it. But you could totally cut this card if you want to, and it's not really searchable either. At least with Fair Welcome, it's searchable and it works off of Labrynth, so there might be an argument to even play more Fair Welcome, even though it's also situational, but we'll have to see, right? Okay, next off we have Terrors of the Overroot. Just another generic sort of trap card that we can mess with our opponent. And I kind of like just playing the one copies of these, like Ice Dragon and Terrors, mainly because these are hard ones per turn anyways, so I don't like playing multiple copies of these anyways, so just I wouldn't play too many. So the copies of cards you can play more of are Compulse and Fair Welcome and Archfiend, and those are kind of like the cards that if you want to play more of, you can. But Terrors and Ice Dragon, I would just play the one of. And obviously we have one big welcome, and finally we have a Solemn Judgment, because to fill out the deck, might as well. This is just namely to protect our back row, I guess, if we finally stabilize or we get to that point. It's kind of just a sacky card, so yeah, for this particular event, I don't see why we shouldn't play it. So there it is. All right, let's move on to the extra deck. Extra deck wise, obviously DP, triple Chaos Angel. You probably don't even have to play triple of some of these cards, namely because we only have one Extravagance, so the likelihood of you banishing your two copies or whatever is very unlikely, and since it's a one of, you're unlikely to even draw this card. So there it is. So you can kind of make the extra deck whatever you want it to be. For me, I'm still trying to I'm gonna still try to focus on the Chaos Angel and try to recycle my lovelies and ladies with the Mudcracker here. But other than that, everything else is kind of utility. I looked through a bunch of my Exceed 4 rank 4s that were legal for this particular event, and nothing was really good, honestly. Besides, like, I think Time Thief Redoer is okay. You can always just, he's hard to get rid of. You just slap two bodies on him, and he just sucks up a card every turn. And maybe you get lucky, you get a trap card. Maybe you get lucky, you get a spell card. You draw one card. Just a generic card, right? To have. Evil Swarm Nightmare is just another generic card. It's a Book of Moon for special summon monsters, so kind of nice in that particular sense. Dingisu, if you ever get two level 8s out there. Same thing with Vampire, Zombie Vampire, same thing. You get 2 level 8s. Zombie Vampire is kind of interesting, is because if you Monster Reborn an opponent's monster, or you summon something with Ice Dragon Prison Mirror, I believe you can overlay those particular monsters because they're owned by your opponent, and then you can summon out Zombie Vampire that way also. I don't know how often that would ever come up, but it is here for that particular sense. And it's also kind of hard to get rid of because you can't target this card with card effects unless they're monsters summoned from the graveyard. So we'll see if that really matters. And milling is also kind of nice because we want to mill ourselves. Maybe hit a Lovely, or maybe hit an Ariana, or hit something good, and we can, get it on the board. But this card is totally optional. I would not craft it if you did not already have one. So since I had one, I went ahead and threw it into my deck. I have IP Masquerena, just a generic Link 2. This card, namely, is to be used to go into Nightmare Unicorn. I suppose that's the only real use it has in this particular deck. And that's really it. Like I said, the actual deck is just a bunch of filler. There's not really much you can really shove in here that would be totally usable, since a lot of it is banned or light or different attributes. Verte obviously for the DPE, triple Mudcracker because why not? Obviously just the one Unicorn. I think all the other Nightmare cards are banned for some reason. Yeah, like Cerberus is banned, Phoenix is banned, yet Unicorn is not, so I guess we'll play it. And then finally we have Axis Code Talker. You know, you can go into Masquerena and then go into Unicorn, and if you have another monster, you can go into Axis Code on your turn, and then proceed to blow up some stuff. I think you only activate it once, you know, pop it once, because you only have Link Darks anyways. So yeah, that's really it. You can also play one of the Boral loads and Boral Savages if you got those. So you got Boral and Dragon here. Well, I don't think you can make this with the deck really, but you have like, you know, Boral Sword and you have Boral Load, so you can also play those if you wanted to. But like I said, this entire extra deck is kind of tossed together. I don't think you can play Boral Savage. I don't think you have any tuners in the deck, so that's not really possible. But okay, so then one final card I want to mention, because I know this video is going for quite a while since I kind of explained a lot of things. Lord Heavenly Prison, you could play it if you have it. It sort of acts as like another lady, and it also protects your back row. I don't have any copies of it. I don't think I want to craft any copies. So if you got a couple copies, or you want to play one or two, then that's a card that you could also play to sort of be another boss monster, because it is really good stats. 3,000 is pretty good. But other than that, yeah, that's it. I don't think there's any other cards I want to talk about. I suspect we will see a lot of like board wipes, like Lightning Storms and Evenlies and Harpy's Feather Duster. I expect that we're gonna be seeing those a lot. So yeah, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But for the most part, most of our traps are chainable, which is kind of nice. We can always hit something. Now, if you go first, you set like 4 cards, and they hit you with like a Lightning Storm or an Evenly match, and you know, you're kind of screwed there. But assuming that, you know, you set up your board correctly and you're not too greedy with your back row, then I think this deck will be just fine. Anyways, guys, that's it. I'll have some gameplays of this deck once the event starts tonight, and then yeah, I think it'll be a fun event. It'll be a lot more fun than the I think the Fiend versus Angel one. That one was horrible, like, because the Fiend or Angel one, it's because it's not Fiend versus Angel. It's all like, you know, one thing. So there were so many mirror matches. I was playing like a Labrynth match every other match, and that was just really frustrating to play through. Where this event, it's you most likely cannot play a mirror match, because unless there's no one playing lights, you're most likely going to be playing against a light deck of some kind. So I think it's going to be a fun event because of the diversity of the format. At least I would hope so. So we'll see, right? If Labrynth becomes really, really strong for this event, then I suspect a lot of people will be playing a lot of back row hate. They'll play like Decree, they'll play a Red Reboot, they'll play Lightning Storms and Evenly match, and then that will be kind of like going to be really difficult for us to deal with, because those are all going to be board breakers. So you're going to have to sort of deal with that. But for now, you know, until the event happens, and once we play it, you know, if it's fun and whatnot, I might just give like periodical updates for this deck in those live commentary videos that I will most likely be doing for this event. So look forward to that. And that's all I got for you guys. So I will see you guys next time.